Well, welcome back to another episode of In Good Company, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. The guest that's joining me today, I'm laughing because we have known each other for well over a decade. We have done ministry together. We've cried together, laughed together. God has been so good in both of our lives, both individually and obviously with the families that we've been able to build. And just so excited to welcome to the podcast, David Williams.
I thought you were going to say David D. Will.
David D. Will Williams. Yeah, there's a huge crowd in here.
Crowd of witnesses.
Wow. David D. Will Williams. I'm sure.
Don't.
No. I'm doing it every time. Yeah. So again, I'm here with David D. Will Williams. And for people that don't know who you are, I mean, don't talk too long about this, but who are you? Where are you from? What is your story?
I'm from the West Side, 1940 to be exact. Born and raised Rochester, New York. Your average dirty ghetto kid. And
Same.
Raised in a two-parent home. Went to a Catholic school probably my whole life up to 11th grade until I got kicked out of Bishop Kearney. Then I went to East High School, got kicked out of East High School. Then got kicked out of East High School, went to Josh Lofton. Got kicked out of Josh Lofton. And, got my GED and here we are. Led a life of crime for a while.
Well, thanks so much for tuning into the In Good Company podcast.
Jesus found me.
There it is.
And boom.
MOG to the death of me.
MOG to the death of me.
So it sounds like there was a trend. You were getting kicked out. All those things were happening. But let's just lean into that, because just to give a little bit of background with you and I was a youth pastor at an incredible church here in Rochester. You were my right-hand guy. I mean, we saw God do incredible things for these young people.
Plowing.
It was unbelievable. And you and I had, of course, a different dynamic in how we approach different things, and it worked great because there were students that really connected with you and students that
Most of them were black.
Well, some of them were, yeah.
But you were so scared every time
I was
touched
scared.
the mic.
Well, yeah, I still am.
Especially remember the time when I was talking about 8 balls? He was like, yeah.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah.
About a lot of crack, like a ball of crack that I would chop up and sell. And he was
Great.
like,
You sold that at church or? I hope not. Okay. Anyway. So it was incredible. We have incredible stories. And again, our background, we were in this real, what I would call ministry-centric role. And clearly there was a shift in your life where you went from this really, I don't want to say hyper kid, but this kid that had a lot of energy, and clearly you were not fitting the mold of what the teachers wanted or what your upbringing wanted. For someone that's listening that maybe has a young child who's kind of in this season right now that is similar to how you went, maybe they're not getting kicked out, maybe they're getting in detention a lot, they're getting in trouble a lot. What is the advice that maybe would have helped you as a kid, kind of with that upbringing?
Shout out to ADHD. I would say really lean into the child and focus on what they are focusing on, because when it comes to the ADHD, it's like attention deficit, but we're actually paying attention to something. We're actually paying attention to something, and being able to lean into what that child is actually paying attention to, you can draw a lot of purpose out of that.
Yeah.
Or seeing what the kid is acting out against, you could draw a purpose from that as well. So, if your kid is wilding, sometimes you gotta wild with them.
Can we wow?
Church in a while, never going out of style.
Wow, that's great. If you're still tuned in, thank you for being here. So what do you do now? Like, what's life look like for you now? Obviously, we talked a little bit about what you and I did together, but what do you do for work? What are some of your hobbies? What's D Will up to?
So I've always been a hustler. Shout out to the pandemic. Pandemic dropped. That's when I first started saying way bigger, right? I started saying way bigger a lot. It's bigger than D Will. It's bigger than D Will. And way bigger stands for living life beyond self. So, as believers, that's what we do. We live our life beyond ourselves, and things are far more deeper than what we can see. So, pandemic started. I was bombarded with all this PPE, like tons of PPE.
Great.
And I was selling PPE. I made my own hand sanitizer. Remember, I had the way bigger hand sanitizer.
Oh man.
I was on the news with it and everything.
I made this in my garage, and you can have it too.
You can have it. I made $10,000 the first week of the pandemic. It was crazy. Outside of that, I dove into financial literacy.
Yep.
Heavy, and I was part of a financial literacy program that started with just 5 of us, and it grew to thousands of people. So I started doing way bigger credit repair out of that. And outside of all of that, I'm always been handy with my hands. Matter of fact, it's credited to the church that we attend.
Yeah.
I hung all the TVs there. I painted all the walls, and I was like, I got a skill. So, I'm a social media guy. I must have posted myself mounting the TV. Next thing you know, everybody and their mama wanted me to mount their TV. So I got to start a business with this thing.
Yep.
And man, I've been mounting TVs and doing a lot of handiwork in homes all across upstate New York since 2017, and been doing it as a business just with no outside resource since 2019. I haven't had a job. So that's what I've been doing for work. And when it comes to ministry, I'm outside. I've been outside ever since 2013 with the MOG movement, transitioning a little bit, to just church in a wild thing. I gave that to Carl Lentz. You remember that?
I do.
You remember that? Carl, glad to have you back. I want my money.
Thanks for watching, Carl.
Thanks for watching, Carl. Make sure we tag him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, at Church in a While, I always had this sense that, I wasn't raised in the church.
Right.
And I'd never seen the church outside. And me, I don't know church protocol. I don't follow religion. I'm very unorthodox.
Yeah.
So the same way I was in school getting kicked out because I wasn't fitting the mold, it's the same thing with me in the traditional church.
Organized religion or whatever.
Yeah. I'm outside. I'm outside meeting the people where they're at. I want to be I want to be a Christ copycat. I'm not a connoisseur when it comes to it, but I want to be a Christ copycat. And through the text, I always see him outside with the people. And I know that the people, they don't feel comfortable coming inside a lot.
Yeah.
So I bring an environment, whether outside, or I'll bring the outside environment inside. Matter of fact, like right across the street at Water Street. And yeah.
Recently, you guys had a couple of just outdoor, almost like spontaneous baptisms at Duran Beach, I think it was. Yeah. And I think you're opening up this beautiful conversation of, you don't have to be a pastor to minister.
No.
Or you don't have to work in a church to be used by God. And one of the things that I've had to struggle with, having been a pastor for a number of years, is when I stepped out of my role at church, I had to question these things of, am I still anointed? Is God still is his hand still on my life? Do I still have spiritual gifts that can be used not at an altar, but at a Starbucks with a conversation with someone, right? So,
and the crazy thing is, and that can happen if we find our identity in what we do. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And when we lose our identity in actually who he is, because that's where we find our identity. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And even to jump ahead, like one of your questions was like, what is your favorite scripture?
Yeah.
So it's Matthew 28 for me right now. Like when Jesus said, I have been given all authority in heaven and in earth, therefore go. So the first part is go. I could do anything and everything. I already have I don't have to get a freaking an excuse or I don't have to get a permission slip.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like what the flip is that? He said, therefore go and make disciples of all nations. So like I have the authority to be outside doing the will of the Father.
Yeah.
And then it says baptize. Just one girl was like, can you baptize people? Can you be baptizing people, D-Well? Like, yeah, the flip. You could baptize them. Do you have the Holy Spirit? Do you follow Christ? Man, come on, get in this water. You could baptize somebody too. But I haven't had the proper train. Dump them. in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dump. Bang, you're done. And it's like we put these mechanicals to ministry. And it's like, yo, there is no mechanicals. It's just a surrendered yes.
Yeah.
And go.
We don't need to stay in this conversation, but the one point I'll make, clearly there has been a shift in my generation of they kind of experience church, and then they're in this kind of in between right now where they maybe still honor the church and value the church, but they're not attending every week. It's a little bit disjointed in terms of, and then the church kind of went through with COVID of like, we got to put videos online and people got to attend church at home because they can't come to our building. So what do you see as like the future of the church or a healthy church? Because I'm not picking on what you're doing because I think it's unbelievable, but I know you still very much believe in the church gathering and
Yes.
people, coming to a place where they can worship and, teaching and all that. What do you see for the future of the church, man? Like, what do you see?
So in Hebrews, it speaks of never forsaking the gathering. Never forsaking the gathering. We have to understand what the gathering actually is, right? So the gathering, I don't believe is a every Sunday thing.
Yep.
The gathering is a every time thing. This is a gathering.
Yeah.
The gathering is where 2 or 3 come in the midst.
Yep.
I mean, will 2 or 3 come together in my name? If we're conversing on God or we're conversing on his principles, if we pray together or we sing worship songs together, it's a gathering. He's there in the midst, right? I believe that the direction of the church, and I believe that it's starting to happen in a lot of churches, is the resurrection of discipleship. Right? The resurrection of discipleship. And what does discipleship actually look like? Because discipleship does not look like Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday is a place for corporate worship, corporate prayer, and hopefully corporate teaching.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of preaching going on. It's a lot of flam, freaking sugar cookies and milk. Like it's terrible. But if there's actually teaching, because the ecclesia, we're supposed to build, equip, and set out so that there's teaching. That's cool for a Sunday. But then there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where the ecclesia can come together again on different events, because we're going to have a persecuted church, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? It's in the word. We're going to have a persecuted church, and these church buildings are going to be shut down. But the church itself is not going to be shut down. But this is where discipleship is so key, because discipleship causes intimacy on a different type of level, where there's actual accountability, there's vulnerability, there's a closeness, there's a more of a tight knitness. And when we look at Jesus and the disciples, like they were together almost all the time. That's how the disciples learned. Yeah. That's how the disciples were able to emulate exactly what Christ did. So if we as believers, not even as believers, if we as disciples ourselves can sit down and really meditate on this word and be like, yo, we need to be in multiplication stage, because it's not going to happen in the 4 walls. Yeah. The 4 walls is for addition. The people just become members. But if there's no discipleship, there's no multiplication. Multiplication can only happen outside of the 4 walls. And it might happen at dinner tables. It might happen at coffee shops. Yeah. You know, it might happen at pubs, you know what I'm saying, across the street. So
well, I was
like,
yeah,
it's beautiful.
I was just going to speak about, my brother and I went to a Bills game 2 weeks ago. Obviously I texted you.
Yeah.
You're the Bills pastor at this point.
Hey, shut up.
Yeah. But like watching you in this environment where, and I'm not trying to pick on Bills fans because this attention in my own life, but it's like, that's their church, man.
It is.
Those people go every Sunday. I got a buddy who is on this podcast. He gets there at 7 a.m. And his wife and his wife's dad has gotten there at 7 a.m. for the past 20 years.
At the 1 a.m. games?
Well, yes. Sorry. Yeah. Fair enough.
Oh, okay.
But still, that's still a long time.
Not the 8 p.m.
Yeah. No. Not the 8 p.m. Although I can check on that. I don't know the answer to that. But they are there, and it's like potluck. Everybody brings food. Obviously, they're drinking. They're hanging out. But the point of bringing that up is, I don't think people need like a gathering per se. Like the church needs to exist. I'm not suggesting that, but people are going to gather.
They're going to gather.
Is the point that I'm making. And when you can intersect yourself into a place where people already have kind of this religious experience, and you're not preaching to them, you're not whatever, but
Did you pull up when I was rapping?
You were finishing up your, I mean, I've heard the gold that comes out of your mouth. But what were you rapping about? What'd you got going?
I was doing my music. Like they were like, yo, D-Will, do your music. I'm like, y'all want me to do my music at the Bills game? All right.
So like that's the part that I've always felt a tension between when I was working at the church, an events-based church where there was a Wednesday night, a Sunday night, a Saturday morning, whatever it was. Now that I'm a dad, it's like I got to coach my son's t-ball team. And I'm sitting next to a dad who moved up here from New York City. Yeah. He's like, I don't have any friends here. My wife and I took, them out to dinner, and he's a friend and he's finding community. I wouldn't have had time to do that if I was in this kind of events-based role. Again, I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing. It's just as I've evolved my faith journey too, I'm seeing that God still does have his hand on my life. Yeah. And he has sent me into a neighborhood, into communities, into these places where I can actually have the time and the margin to be able to invest in these people. Right. So I love hearing that about your story. And obviously if you're listening, clearly there's a pivot that happened in your life from when you were a kid, getting kicked out and all these things happening, to kind of this fire that you have now. Yeah. What would you say to someone that maybe they're working kind of a normal 9-to-5 job, they feel passionate in their faith, or maybe they feel passionate that there's something more for them, but they don't have the courage to kind of jump out, or they're scared of what people are going to think of them, or whatever.
Who the flip cares? The man that tell you, I don't give a flip, bro. I don't care. I do not care. The very first song I ever wrote in my Christian walk, it was entitled "I Don't Care." I do not care, bro. Somebody gonna beat you up? Well, they might, man, because
I'll beat you up, bro.
You might get punched in the face for your faith. But like, who cares? Like when it comes, if God is calling you to it, like who can stop you? Who can block you? Who can actually deter you? Who can make you hesitate? Who can cause you to pause? Like, yo, if God be for me, man, who the flip could be against me? That's how I walk out with my chest out. Like I don't, Mike, you know me, I do not care. And then I'm like, yo, who's going to touch me? Who's going to stop me? Nobody's going to stop me. If God has called me to do this, I'm going to do this with my chest out. I'm going to do this like unashamed. I'm going to do this so loud. I was loud in my sin. I was so loud in my sin. I was braggadocious in my sin. I was flaunting my sin. I'm going to do this on this walk too. I was a gangster too. I'm a gangster over here too. Be a gangster. And if you don't know what that is, I got a couple movies for you to watch. And just turn it.
But starring Denzel. Yeah. American
Gangster. That was a good one. Yeah. But still, it's like, yo, you have to have this confidence. You have to have this confidence. And it's not about yourself, but have a confidence in who he is. Yeah. So that you can do what he has called you to do. Like, man, if God has called you to do it, like, you think he's just going to leave you by yourself? Man, go on and do it. When I started MOG movement, bro, I remember the first hood prayer. It was after Summit. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, love God, love people, influence the world. I'm not a container. I'm a conduit. Shout out to Dennis. I'm a conduit. Man, I talked to Stephen Lewis. I'm like, yo, bro, we outside. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, bro, we outside. We got to go pray for people outside. He like, for real? Like, yeah, we about to go to Jenny. He said, Genesee Street? Yeah. And I was shook. I'm like, and not shook because I used to rob people on Jenny. But the fact that like, oh, I'm about to bring Christ up here. Am I equipped? Am I enough? Man, I went out there that one day and it kind of turned that street like upside down for a season. And even still now, when I see the men, they have this honor, they have this respect. Excuse me. And they also have an expectation. Yo, you want to pray real quick? They asking me, hey, bro, you want to pray? Hood prayer? Hood prayer? They don't even know the hood prayer. They think hood, because in the hood, it stood for hand of our deliverer. Like, boy, I'm out here to do something. Like, so, man,
Awesome.
God is calling you to it, go ahead and do it.
Boom. I love it, man. Yeah. And again, I think what I've loved about your story, and this will speak to some people that maybe have spent so much time building up other people's brands that they don't actually have anything of their own.
Yeah.
And so I think when you talk about things like just do it and own it and kind of live out who you are. I was a gangster then, I'm a gangster now. The beauty of your personal brand that you've been able to build on social media is whether you're mounting TVs, you're doing hood prayer, or you're preaching at a church or on a podcast, you are giving people D-Will. You are consistently who you are in any of these arenas.
Right.
Speak a little bit about how the power of social media has allowed you to do some of these things. Because even we had a conversation the other day about the baptism night.
Yeah.
You were like, I just put up a social post and then we had like 50 people show up.
Right.
Talk about how have you been able to leverage social media in kind of any of these ventures that you've been a part of?
Man, social media is like, I don't know. But I think it does play into what you said, like authenticity.
Yes.
Man, if one thing that people are going to flock to is authenticity. And it's like I have no regret in anything that I am. Like, I'm me. Like, this is what you're going to get. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is what you're going to get. I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry. This is me. This is what you get. And I think people respect that. They're like, well, we know what we're going to get. We know he ain't about to switch it up. We know he about to be out here with these anointed napkins selling them for 50.
Yeah, right.
We know that he was about to be truly authentic. And then outside of that, when people see your story, right, they see things that they can relate to. They find connection points. They're like, man, if God loved D-Will, he gotta love me, because D-Will's a trip.
Yeah.
And my thing is, I want to put that on the table. So social media has been the ultimate blessing. Social media will allow me in your house. You already know how I am.
Yes.
You know how I am.
Yes.
You know who I am. You know how I am. Well, if he's going to mount my TV, it might be a fun time as well.
Because he's going to sit on the TV and take a picture that the mouth's strong. Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, man, it's a beautiful thing. I just put a TV up across the street.
Great.
Yesterday. 85-inch, way too high. The lady had to be a giraffe.
She wanted that high.
And then she knew I was going to drill her after I put the TV up. She was expecting it. Hey, you got to put me on your story.
Sure am.
Sure am.
We always take pictures of giraffes.
Yeah. This is an extra $5.
Yeah, yeah. I had to get a ladder for this one. Yeah.
I did, though.
Well, sorry to hear it.
Terrible.
I think it's a great testament for anyone listening that you got to be yourself. And I think even at a young age, for a lot of us, we can spend so much time trying to impress that coach or that teacher or that parent even, that by the time we get into our 20s, we don't even know who we are, because all we've been doing is just trying to make everybody else happy. And I think especially for people that have gone through divorce or people that have really had kind of this like uprooting moment in their life where they thought they were building something that was theirs or they were owning, but it turns out they had spent maybe over a decade not even knowing who they are. Right. And so again, I love that with your story, that you are who you are, you show up and you're faithful with what you do. What has it been like as you've been pursuing your dream and your journey to throw kids in the mix, to have to manage the family dynamics? Now you got a young boy who probably has very similar personality stuff as you, and you're like, wait a minute, how do I navigate this?
I think he's worse than me.
Yeah.
I think he's worse than I ever was. Cause he got a mix of that Spanish spice. Oh God, like it's bad.
We're gonna interview that Spanish spice in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Spanish spice that he got is crazy. But I would say it's challenging. It's also beautiful as well for them to be part of the journey, for them to see the journey, for them to see everything. They're embarrassed a lot, you know. Like my daughter, what did Devani say to me the other day? She said, everybody at my school knows you. And I'm like, how? It's a whole other generation. I'm watching your videos in school. It's like, ha ha ha. I'd love to embarrass you. Now you gotta walk with a standard. You have to walk with a standard. And I think that it's gonna be challenging for them, but also it's gonna be part of their testimony and their journey as well. Cause like y'all not PKs. Yeah. But you got like a PK life.
Yeah.
You got like a PK life. You got this wild dad who just be outside doing weird stuff and screaming Jesus. Then you got your mom who's always praying for people. The fact that they come home sometime and they mom doing deliverance in the in the living room after football.
Yo, can I get a pops? Oh, you know what? Never mind.
Yo, Flock could tiptoe out the house. We came home one day and we knew something was happening. So first there's a van in front of my crib. I'm like, nobody just come to my crib. So I'm like, yo, Flock, get behind me, bro. So I'm like, my hood instance is going. I'm like, yo, I see the van empty. We start going toward the house and we are like this intercessory prophetic prayer worship music playing. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I'm thinking, man, they're probably just praying in the living room. We go in there and on the ground crying and wailing. This other lady, and Flock goes in there. He turns out like, Mom's in there praying. She's like, she's in there like church praying. We gotta go. He's tiptoeing out the house, but it's like, yo, I love the fact that they get those experiences,
No doubt,
because they see it outside of church.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, we go to church and this happens. Nah, this can happen any.
It's not a
day.
performance. It's not.
Right.
It's like those age-old stories where the parents are cursing out the kids on the way to church.
Right.
And now they're in the church.
Hey, in the name of the mighty Holy Ghost, hi,
God bless you. Our family's doing great.
I'm blessed and highly favored. Shut the fuck up.
Well, yeah, unfortunately. That leads into one of my final few questions here. What has it been like for you as an entrepreneur, someone that's able to pursue your dreams, to have a support system like Amanda, who you know is praying for you? You know she's your biggest fan. I think we hear it all the time, you know, being evenly yoked and, you know, all that stuff. But what has that meant to you personally to have Amanda in your corner through all the stages of your life?
I mean, that's everything. You know, the word tells us that, you know, he gives us a helpmate. You know what I mean? And I think without that help, I'd be a little messed up. You know what I'm saying? Financially. No, I don't want to say financially. I'm good financially. If anything, she takes most of my money.
God bless.
She squanders the money. Never know where the money goes.
Right.
Just giving her money.
Well, we'll get her opinion on that in a few minutes.
But I think my organization skills, they're terrible. They're right out the window. And in encouragement, like, she's the only one that sees me in a vulnerable state where I'm actually scared.
Yeah.
You know, and that's in ministry and in entrepreneurism, you know, because, you know, in the work that I do, it's like if that thing don't get booked, the bills are still coming. We ain't talking about the Buffaloes, but them bills are, hey, the bills are still coming. And it's like, you know, she's there to encourage me and let me know, you know, who I am, you know, and I can be like, yeah, I can consider the Raven. You know, God will never leave me nor forsake me. He take care of these filthy birds outside. I'm his child.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been amazing. You know, it's been amazing. Even in my rap career, you know, I remember my album release party. She opened up like rapping my whole intro. And I'm like, yo, you know, that's dope. Like, I get pissed off nowadays if she posts a video, a reel, using some other rapper's song. Like, what the fuck is you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Or if I post a video and you ain't like my junk, you're supposed to be the first like. I set it up in your phone for you to get notifications soon as I post.
Yeah.
So don't tell me you didn't see it.
She was like, I was praying for you.
Because I'd rather get gratification. And like, as a man and as a husband, I'd rather get gratification in my house before I get it outside. You know what I'm saying? Because in the house, it means so much more than some random strangers. You know what I mean? In the house praise is way better. Like, I was just at Mark's the other day, and it was like, D-Will, you D-Will, ain't you? I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, you owe me a record label contract. And I'm like, all right. He said, man, and it's like, yo, thank you. But it's like,
I don't need that.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. But at home, if I hear, like, if I take Devani and we at a concert, yo, Devani's rapping every word. And I'll scan the audience and it's cool. But as soon as I see her, I'm like, yeah, it's that homegrown in-house love, appreciation, gratitude, push, affirmation that makes life way better, way smoother, and way bigger. Pun intended.
Yep. I love, for those that are maybe about to get engaged, they're kind of not yet married, I think just a critical point to say is I think there's always this, I'm looking for that person to complete me. And there's this desire of like, that one person is out there that's like this puzzle piece and it clicks perfectly. And
Ain't
again,
nobody complete you.
yeah,
Nobody can complete you.
yeah,
Someone can help you. Someone can aid you. Someone can assist you. Someone can come aside you and push you, help you level up. Someone can better you. But complete, nah, you only find that completion in Christ, man.
yep.
Be fooling themselves.
Yeah, and listen, you got to be two individual people coming together.
Exactly.
And I think if you're in this season where maybe you're in a long season of singleness and you're feeling like, man, I can't meet my person, or I'm just going on all these apps and trying to go on these dates, my encouragement would be, find out the true self-understanding of who you are. Certainly, I think a relationship with Christ is a huge factor, the only factor to really secure your identity. But once you get to that place and you can healthily show up, I think that it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
We have this portion of our podcast that I love called the rapid fire hot seat questions. So
My seat is hot.
yeah, so this is how we're going to close the episode. Hot seat questions, 1 to 2 word responses. You just got to rattle through these. Are you scared?
Yep.
You are? Okay. Question number 1.
Oh,
If you could have dinner with any Bills player, past or present, who would it be?
Von Miller.
Oh,
It's my dog.
the Vaughn. I love that. If you could rap at a Christian event anywhere, or any event anywhere, where would you go?
Barclays Center.
Wow. Love it. Love it. What's your favorite project that you worked on?
When I worked in the dispensary, I put like 1 million TVs up in a dispensary, and I did like a 6 TV, 85-inch video wall. It's freaking crazy.
Love it.
I loved it.
Show me a picture. Is there a worship song that's like your go-to, or like an artist that you just love?
Chandler Moore, Lead Me On.
That's a great song.
I love it.
It's incredible. I'm trying to think of one more because I have some of these for both you and Amanda. What is your best story with, or what's your favorite thing to do with your kids that's kind of outside of work, but just if you could do this, you just look forward to it?
Go to Bills games.
Go to Bills games. Yeah. Great. Love it.
Oh, my favorite Bills game ever when I took Flock for his birthday. When he didn't know. I told him, we're going to Thurman Thomas's restaurant. And he's like, yeah. It was his birthday. I picked him up from school early. I took him to the church and got him dressed in all these Bills gear. He's like, why am I putting all this on? I said, going to the restaurant. We need all this to go to the restaurant? Like, yeah. Then we took him tailgating. And, going down Abbott Road, he's like, he's never had been to a Bills game. So he's seeing all this. I think we playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he's like, what the heck is going on?
That was a Thursday nighter.
Yeah. We in the tailgate, he's seeing the food. Now it's a table fest. We had 300 people at our tailgate going through tables, pow, 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 left and right. And he's like, what? Before we get there, excuse me, I'm like, Flock, you gonna go through a table? He's like, no. I said, why? He said, I'm not an idiot like them. And he starts pointing at my godbrother. My godbrother goes to the table that has been broken 3 times now. We put it together by like sticks. It is straight to the ground. And then we tell him like, Flock, you're about to go to your very first Bill game. And he starts crying. Like, I'm about to cry. He starts crying. And I'm like, yo, this is what I live for. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Buffalo Bills, man. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't a Buffalo Bills fan my whole life. I've been a Buffalo Bills fan for like 4 years.
The best.
Shout out to the 13 seconds. That's when I became a fan.
Yeah, you picked a good time to start liking the Bills, though. Because
As soon as we lost.
Well, my whole middle school experience, I lived in Virginia, a bunch of Redskin Commander fans, 20 years of not making the playoffs. And I'm not around Bills fans. So everybody is like, why do you like the Bills? Yeah. I'm like, bro, if I could choose not to, I would. I'm trapped in this,
I chose it for the underdog, the fan base, the belief system, and the fact that we're right around the corner.
Yeah.
Go Bills.
Go Bills, baby. That's a great place to end. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the In Good Company podcast, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. We'll see you next time.
Believe.